So did we miss another GameStop opportunity or an AMC opportunity, a WallBets opportunity? Stick around to the end and we'll see if we have missed that or if the technical analysis side of this tells us that there might be an opportunity. And I'm going to share with you that I've been sort of following along on some of the trades that have been these short squeezes and so forth, and have had some tremendous amounts. I mean, I've gained, of course, naked. If you held it for 10 years from 2009 to 2018, you would have, that would have been a really, really nice gain, 20,000% gain, right? But that's already been there and gone. And honestly, this pattern that you see in here, it's really interesting because I think that there's a fair number of memes that end up going through a cycle similar to this. So we need to find out if this is the next AMC WallStreetBets short squeeze stock or anything of that sort. If you're asking yourself that, this is the video that we're going to break it down and share with you. Now, I must say that if you like this and you found it valuable, please go ahead and click on the subscribe, like button, comment, do all that good stuff so that we can continue bringing this to you. And also remember, this is not advice. This is for entertainment purposes only, and that's the only reason. So you consult a financial consultant if you are going to invest in anything. So that being said, let's take a look and see what we got. This is a monthly chart, so which look at the monthly charts because they are much more data that we can go off of, and over the years gives us a pretty good idea of what's happened. As you can tell, it was really quiet, and this is why this is interesting to me. Out of the ones that we have, and I'll show you in just a minute, you got a range that was happening there, and let me make that a little bit less. There we go, right there, before that thing popped. Now things tend to repeat themselves. They go quiet for a while, but what are we seeing here? It looks like we are also ranging. Very interesting. And look at that first pop from here, if you happen to be one of those that got in here and went there in a month, 5,000% of that. So I'm not making a suggestion in any way, shape, or form that anybody should go into this, because you got to do your due diligence, because this NAKD Brand Group Limited is, I believe, a swimwear company out of Australia or something like that. And I haven't done the fundamental research on it. So this could very well go to zero, obviously, right? Just like anything else right now, it's only at 65 cents, 66 cents. And at the lowest previous lows, it was down in that $3.90 something cents. Let's take a look at what the lowest price that it had prior to that was, $5.30. So could this be going to zero? It could be. I could, this is why these tend to be the ones that people bet against, a lot of times shorting out that last little part of it. So be responsible, and again, take this entertainment purposes. So right now it's way below that, right? So that being said, what is there opportunity here? Is there something there that might be, if I have a high risk tolerance and I'm sitting there and saying, well, it may be worth for me to play around with this and see if I can get something out of that, then we'd want to look at the charts a little closer and see what we have unfolding in this time frame. So I'm going to go ahead and make the chart bigger for this right here, and we see little pumps that happen here, and in and of itself, it wasn't utterly exciting for me to look at it from that perspective. However, I try to take a look at what happens if it got to this level, what happens if it got to that level right here, what happens if it got here, which are a little bit more reasonable. Here, what would those gains be if I were going to take a chance on something like this? Well, here it's 344%, 813, 3,000, 3,500. Okay, well, it's 35x. You know what? The downside to this is that it goes to zero, and I lose that. Something I need to consider. Now, the thing that drew my attention is that when I looked at a lot of other stocks, let me pull some of these up. For example, AMC WallStreetBets was one of those shorted ones, and look at this. It came down, and it was down in this region, the lowest it had ever been, and boom, skyrocketed. This is on the same time frames, monthly. Let's look at GameStop and GME. What happened there? Okay, GameStop had a nice long consolidation period right there, and then it just took off. So obviously had a couple of jumps before that, and then it just took off. But these consolidation periods are pretty interesting to me because you can see that there's a bit of patterns that are forming. Could GameStop do one of these things where it makes a couple of jumps and then tanks? Possible, we don't know. But it definitely seems like it's a possibility. It may be early in that game, but that's a whole different analysis. If you haven't seen that analysis, feel free to click on that, and I'm sure we'll put it on here. So when you look at a lot of these that have been on, for example, Clove is another one that was on there. On it had a nice huge pump. It had a huge pump already, and now we're saying, okay, is it time for it to take a break and then eventually come back? Sure, there might be a possibility on there. What is it that kind of helped me to be able to go, why is this something worth a technical analysis? Well, here's a simple component to it. Let's take a look here. Let's open up the volume. Open up the volume on both of these. And all this right here happened with tiny little bits of volume. What am I seeing here? Holy moly. There's a lot of activity of stuff happening here. Now, could there be people that are selling out because they think it's going to tank? That is a possibility. There's just people selling out. But it also could be a possibility that people who are institutional traders are looking to get in. Let's see if we see any patterns in that in AMC. Do we see any patterns of high volume? Ooh, look at that. High volume just before a pump. Let's take a look at GME here. Let's see if we got anything there. A lot more volume. Look at that, quiet and a lot more volume just as it started to pump. There was a bigger volume that we had seen, and there it is. I think it was Nokia. There's another one that was, if I remember correctly. And okay, there it is. Nokia, and on the monthly, that last pump that it had there. Oh, who knows if there's an opportunity there too. But definitely before pumps, there seems to be an increase in volume. Look at that. Big increase in volume before it did that. Let's see this. It wasn't as clear. But, and then this, what I mean, that they're still tanking here. But look at this volume right here increasing. So, having said that about all these other ones that we've seen, going back to our NAKD one, saying, whoa, what do we have here? What if it just got to... Let me clear all this drawings here. What if this thing just mashed from wherever it's at right now? Let's take a better clip it on there, make sure it gets on there. So we have from here, we got from here to any of these levels. I mean, these are ridiculous levels. These are just previous highs. I can understand why there's been a lot of talk from time to time about this being a huge jump. Now, what if these were the little bumps that we've seen before, and this is just prepping itself for a much bigger result? What would be something that I would be thinking about? You know, again, not advice, but just thinking about for myself. What might I be thinking? Well, if I'm thinking it's going to do some crazy super cycle, then I would be looking somewhere in this zone right up here, because there's not enough history anywhere else to be able to touch on. Now that's dreaming, right? That's getting to that dreamy world. And if that were the case, they were talking some ridiculous percentages. You're talking 733,000%. That's nuts. Now, will we get there? I am not making that claim whatsoever, but I will say that other coins in the past, when they've done a super cycle, they jump pretty high. So was it worth taking the risk even for some of these? Sure. You know, for me, maybe I'll play with it. Maybe I'll consider it. Maybe I'll get some more. I don't know. We'll see. But I wanted to make sure that as we go through these exercises of sharing and just entertainment purposes kind of videos, we can be of value to the community and say, hey, this is what might be something to consider as an analysis. Now, when would that jump be? We don't have a timeline. We don't have a crystal ball. If that were to do that, if it is even going to do that, but because this last period right here had to hold for how long? Let's say from here they had to endure all this all the way to here. They had to endure 2,071 days. That's a lot of time, right? So what if we did just a part that was the last little bit here? That's roughly what is that right there? All right there, that's 576 days, just about 2 years for that. And now let's take a look at today's for ours here. From just this to here, it's been about, how many days is that right there? 667 days. Now, the past history does not determine future action, but there's a few things that are kind of lining up and saying, this is looking very interesting. So now I would drop down into the other time frames, maybe a weekly, maybe a daily, and seeing what that chart is telling us. So these are the last little tiny little bumps that we've seen. There was a nice pump of this before, and from the lowest of that to the highest of that point, we are just around the 786. So it's trying to get above that 786 fib. And if it does, it'll be very, very interesting, because if it bounced already and it does decide to do a jump, it could be some nice, comfortable gains if it just chooses to do that. Now, just as likely, I gotta make sure I cover everything else. It's just as likely that if it was to go down to 0, then I am taking a risk down from here to 0. Let me go ahead and put those coordinates as 0, so that we have a better sense. That's the downside, 100% of it lost of whatever got put in, to even just here, 418%. Now remember, in the big picture, what this represents. That represents that last bump high. That's 418% from where it roughly is right now. So it's very interesting. I whatever you choose to do, to consult with your financial advisor, do your own research, do your own due diligence. But if you like these kind of videos and you want to stay updated as we do some of these, we will happy to share that with you, and you'll be able to do that by just simply clicking on that subscribe button. All right, everybody, wish you the best in your trading world, in your investment world, and may you succeed like every single day. Take care.